watch this video, at least some of it today, and then we are going to, shoot, I gotta silence my phone first. See, I knew it. Had shit going, all kinds of stuff, just pull up. Why won't it pull up? Shit. There it is. It's being unresponsive. Gotta love it. Alright. So, anyways, we're going to start with this. We're going to watch some of this video. This video is going to take us a couple days at least. We're probably going to watch like 20-minute chunks-ish. And then we'll get through this video the way we get through the long videos, right? Just 20-minute chunks. So we're going to do that, and I need to keep an eye on Streamlabs today as well, since apparently we're just going to have dropped frames left and right. Because if that goes on, then we're just not going to be streaming today. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we fixed it, but I don't know if we fixed it, because sometimes it gets resolved and sometimes it doesn't. It's a stupid technical problem, to be honest. But let's see what this is. And I have no idea what this is about, aside from it's got stuff to do with Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon.
Jennette McCurdy.
Jennette McCurdy.
Jennette McCurdy.
For years, she was the darling of kid TV's
brand new Nick show, iCarly. She has an off-the-wall best friend.
Here's an idea. What? Stop doing bad things!
At just 15, Jennette McCurdy was one of the most recognizable child stars on television.
You pull back the curtain on child stardom. It is not a pretty picture.
It's all in her new memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died.
There we go.
Today also contains some disturbing stories of abuse at the hands of her mom.
She had introduced me to anorexia because she thought it would help me play younger roles for acting.
In many ways, your mother tried to keep you.
I think my mom wanted to keep me as controllable as possible. I think my mom saw my career as a way out.
The TV producer allegedly encouraged her to drink alcohol at 18.
Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser.
Oh,
You're
Dan
playing
Schneider.
An adult's game. You're in an adult's world. I think it really leads to stunted personal development. For me, facing the parts of myself that I felt the most shame about has been really healing for me and transformative.
You've been adored by tweens worldwide for the last 5 years, and your hit show is wrapping up its 5th successful season. How does it feel?
Well, terrible.
Oh, hi there. Hello, hi. It's my face again. Swoop, 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 swoop. So, we have covered a lot of truly dark topics together on this channel, from the terrifying stalking story of Creepshow Art to diving inside the mind of Jodi Arias. But few stories have disturbed me to the core the way Jennette McCurdy's has. A former child star whose brutal expose of the entertainment industry has shook the world, a complete dismantling of what everyone thought was the real truth, and a mother that's honestly scarier than my sleep paralysis demons, okay? And that shit's pretty scary. Jennette McCurdy is not only glad her mom died, but she's bringing a multi-billion-dollar industry to its knees for all of the world to see. This doc is going to be unlike anything else that we've covered, so buckle up and let's do it. Now, if you are seeing me for the first time, hi. I make documentaries and short films on unsolved cases, true crime, and social media influencers who abuse their power and manipulate audiences because, as I always say, it's not drama, it's dangerous. We also dig deeper into the root psychology, and sometimes we take it to Petty University, okay? Because, bitch, petty is my love language. Petty is our love language. And speaking of, I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who grabbed your new Petty University apparel items from the new collection. Y'all absolutely blew me away with your support, and the mint hoodie, child, okay? Y'all love Miss Minty Fresh over here, okay? Let me get suited up and proper. If you want to grab your own Petty University, Petty is my love language items. The shop is linked below as always. So, per usual, she has an
shit. I didn't mean to do that. Just try to figure out where this was.
It's what we do. And the minful in mother's clothing and the evisceration of Dan the Creator. Now, we will be taking it to Betty University a few times in this doc. It's what we do. And honestly, because Jennette is like officially an honorary petty professor, if I do say so myself. But I also want to give y'all a heads up. We will be discussing SA, EDs, and a whole mess of parental abuse. It's a fucking party, so grab a snack and a glass. You were warned.
All right. So there's your warning, because we've discussed the topics of eating disorders here as well with things like Eugenia Cooney. So before we do more, I just want to point out some things that I feel like I've said this in the past on the stream and for these videos or similar videos, but it needs said again. Child actors seem to always be people that are taken advantage of every time. One, it never works out well. The amount of times that you see a child actor who's doing very well as an adult versus a complete wreck is a handful of times compared to how many exist as child stars. So it's something that clearly is destructive, and there's clearly things that are terribly wrong with it, the way that these people develop, because they never develop into functioning adults for the most part, right? We're talking in generalities, which is why I pointed out at the beginning, handful make it through that. Outside of that handful, it's obviously destructive. It's obviously damaging. They don't develop into adulthood correctly. There's clearly something going on that is stunting them from growing, whether that's trauma or abuse, whether that's the way that they've been, like it seems like happened here to Jennette McCurdy, where her mother tried to push her into doing things that sacrifice her health in order for her to maintain a more young appearance, to obtain younger roles as she's entering being an adult and an actual woman, and her mom's still trying to get her to play like a kid. But why do we do that to people? It's weird that is something that goes on within the industry, and it leads to substance abuse and addiction. It leads to the ending of selves pretty much on a consistent basis. Like it's fairly well documented and known that this is another outcome of this problem. There's so many parts to this that are problematic that it's something that's not done very well. And now if you look at the handful of times that these people are successful and they are healthy adults, either one, they had to drastically change their lives and correct themselves because they were not there. They didn't come through unscathed. The even smaller group of people who do come through unscathed, like they don't become terribly abused or anything, like I'm pointing out previously. And these people just make it through the whole thing. The very most common difference between those two groups of people, or three groups of people really, but this one group in particular, is that their parents, when these children actors are there, are very involved and aware in ensuring their child is always safe and is always taken care of. They're always around. Their parents are concerned for their child's safety and how this industry seems to eat people that are even full-grown adults get eaten up by this monster. So a child is definitely going to be on the table, right? So it's just very rare that you have a parent who's like that, it seems, for these child actors. So it's absolutely deplorably evil. But as I've pointed out before, the parents are a role. They play a role. They enable it. They enforce it. They push it on their kids. They tell their kids that they can't eat. They need to do more exercise. They need to dress a certain way. They need to talk a certain way. That way they can portray something in a specific way so that they can get certain roles. And it's very exploitative of the child. Whereas, like, on the other end of this, you look at, like, a family content channel on YouTube, and you can make the same argument for some of those kids. However, like I was saying yesterday, there's a line that has to be crossed for that to really apply, unless you're somebody who's just like, oh, it's kids, so it's exploiting them. They can't consent because they're kids, so you're now exploiting them. Like, I get it. I understand the argument. The thing is, some kids just have parents that like to make videos, even if they're just private videos, to have at home for, like, on your own video vlog memories for yourself. It's just a disc or a hard drive of memories that you've recorded and photographed and you keep for yourself. And kids see that you have the camera and they want to be on it. You know, like, it's part of the game for some kids, and it's not really exploiting them at all. It's just the kids being kids. So I think there's a line to be crossed there. However, a lot of the time with these child actors, mothers, fathers, more often it seems that we hear about mothers, seem to push this type of stuff on their kids to include the disorders and the addictions, and it's a problem. And then you also have creeps like this guy, Dan Schneider. Guess I covered him up. But we have creeps like him that also very bad, very creepy, and need to be held accountable, right? So there's a certain amount of things that are just, they're always concerning, that seem to just pile into what is involved in becoming a child actor or a child star, and it does not tend to seem like it's healthy at all at the end, which is, it's unfortunate, but that is the case. It seems like it's almost every single time destructive, unhealthy, and leads to a much worse situation than it really ever should have in the first place. I don't know how I missed this earlier, but boom, enjoy. Now we have it zoomed. I don't know how sometimes I just think that it's somehow magically saved the setting, and it never does. Anyways, that's my preamble to this, and pretty much where I'm going to be coming from with my commentary on things like eating disorders, which we've discussed. And if you think I have something, like I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm insensitive to some angle of this, I've probably discussed that exact angle before, and I just try not to constantly address the exact same angle in every video. So calm yourself and just watch the other videos if that's how you feel.
Real quick, and then we're jumping straight in. A huge thank you to today's sponsor, Scentbird, who you're absolutely going to love as much as I do. So Scentbird is reimagining everything about how people discover, shop for, and create your own personal collection that you literally live your life in.
Like
and a wonderful way to bring in some self-care that you honestly deserve. So Scentbird lets you choose a new designer fragrance to try every month for just $17. But child, you already know Sister Swoop got a discount for you. It's only going to be around $7, okay? You can discover new fragrances by taking a sample quiz on Scentbird, and based on your preferences, they'll help you to find the fragrance you'll love. And every month you get to pick exactly what you want to receive, so there are no surprises. They have perfumes and colognes and lots of unisex options, and honey, we are talking designer, darling, okay? Scentbird carries Prada, Gucci, Versace, and niche brands like Skylar, Heretic, and Confessions of a Rebel. So this month I actually got 3 fragrances, and so I got Commodity by Milk.
So this product might be good, but don't use, like I don't know, obviously it's not sponsored here. But if you check this out, don't try to use her promo code. This video is a year old. The promo code is probably no good now. So, I mean, you can give it a shot, but odds are the promo code is no good. It's been a year.
Take the fragrance out, you literally just slide it out like that. If you want to put it back, tuck it right in there, twist to lock it, and then it's good to go. You can toss this in the bag. I also got Rosy Bloom by Kenzie, which is a very fresh, sweet, and approachable scent. delicious. Like, I want to eat it. I mean, don't eat it, but like, ooh, everyone's just going to think you're so edible. And I also got Red Panda by Sanctuary, which is very energetic. And my favorite part, with each fragrance, you'll get a 30-day supply, so you can try out fragrances before committing to a full-size bottle. So tap the link in the description to check out Scentbird. Take a sample quiz to help you find a...
I will say, if you want to try that out and it works, that's amazing. Because if you care about that, 55% off is a hell of a deal anywhere.
$. Like, you can't even get some greasy fast food for that price. So tap the link and treat yourself to the luxury and self-care that you deserve, honey. Okay,
it is a year
back
old.
To the doc.
It is a year old.
Empowering me to make an impact
might not
in
work,
environmental
but it might
policy,
be worth trying
even
if
though
you're that
I'm still in
interested
classes
in it.
And again, I want to thank all of y'all for being here week after week, watching these docs and checking out the sponsors, which is a great way to help support this channel. And I am so stoked to say I am finally building a little production team, which I have been working towards for years, y'all. Like, just get ready. There's going to be tons more docs, more films, short films, all of that, honey. All right, class is officially in session.
I am ultimately proud of my decision there, wherever it came from. I think I did something that was really hard to do. Oh my God, it makes me emotional. I'm proud of myself.
Okay, let me introduce you to Miss Jennette McCurdy, child star, author, director, and recent graduate of Petty University. Oh, and when I say child star, I mean child star, honey. Like, if you've never seen her face before, or have, like, I don't know, been in the cave in the middle of the wilderness with no reception or access to media for the past, give or take, I don't know, like 15 years, first of all, welcome to technology.
I didn't know who this was until she said in that opening portion that this was the girl that played iCarly. I didn't know who this was, but as soon as she said that, I knew exactly who she was talking about, and I didn't even watch the show. I never watched the show at all. Like, I watched Nickelodeon pre this time frame of shows. Like, this whole era of shows, the iCarlys and all that type of stuff, came out after I had moved on. Like, I enjoyed Nickelodeon pre that period, and that period was when I'd shifted out, was in between there. So, I'm just unfamiliar.
Glad to have you. Second of all, let me make y'all's acquaintance. Jennette was born in Los Angeles, California on June 26, 1992, and grew up in what she not so affectionately calls Garbage Grove, aka Garden Grove, a town in northern Orange County, approximately 40 miles away from the land of stars, Hollywood. Now, before we go any further, since there's probably no spoilers at this point that Jennette does not have fond feelings for her mother, let me introduce you to the woman that puts the word mother in motherfucker. Deborah. So Deborah McCurdy, Jennette's mother, was born on July 17th, 1957 and passed away on September 20th, 2013 after a multi-year battle with breast cancer. She was first diagnosed with breast cancer in 1995. She went into remission for 15 years prior to her terminal diagnosis. Now, like, listen, y'all, like, we're gonna uncover some scathing ass shit in this doc, but I just want to be clear, I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone or any family. It is the actual spawn of Mr. Shriveled Balls Satan himself. I just wish cancer would get cancer and die a miserable death, just so we're clear. Okay.
Yeah, cancer definitely sucks. I'm sure everybody who comes across this video knows somebody who's died of cancer or who is currently dealing and battling cancer right now. Every single one of you who comes across this. Cancer sucks. It definitely does. And watching people die from cancer also sucks. It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes shit sucks.
So Jennette describes her childhood as follows. My earliest memories of childhood were of heaviness and chaos. My mom's emotions were so erratic that it was like walking a tightrope every day. The mood fluctuations were daily. Okay, so we've got Jennette, we've got Deborah, and we've got the title of Jennette's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. So, like I said, buckle the f*** up.
There is nothing anyone can say about Jennette's mom that is going to hurt her feelings. She made a memoir that she wrote a memoir that she titled, "I'm Glad My Mom Died." That is savage. That is savage as fuck. I love it. I'm all for it. I am all for this. All right.
I'm just gonna tell you right now, it is gonna be a bumpy ride, class. Okay, I'm gonna need you to keep your arms and appendages inside the vehicle at all times. It is for your safety. So, growing up, Jennette and her 3 brothers were homeschooled by their mother, Deborah, coupled with religious teachings in line with the Church of Latter-day Saints, aka Mormonism. Now, their father, who was later revealed after Deborah's death to not be Jennette's biological father, worked 2 jobs to keep the household afloat. And yes, you heard me right. Deborah, mommy dearest, kept Jennette's father's identity a secret her whole life. Like can you imagine, like, you're living your life, you're a kid, you grow up, then you become an adult, your mom passes, and you find out then that your dad isn't even your biological father, and you have no idea who he is. That's not even the wildest part of this whole story, so we're just gonna move on.
Wait, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm confused. Because the way she said this is like there's evidence that shows her mom knows who Jennette's biological dad is and just withheld that information. What the fuck is that information that she has that makes her come across this way? Or was that just a misframing and poor choice of words? Which we all do. It's no big deal. Because that's definitely the way it came across. The way that was said. But it's not unlikely that is the case. I mean, like, the other option is that she was promiscuous enough that she herself was unsure who the biological father was. Right? Like, neither option is really, like, good or endearing. I'm just saying, did she actually withhold this information? Or is that just the choicing of words and it's starting to create an emotional response to anything relating to her mom? You see what I'm saying? Something to be conscious of.
Because wow. Deborah was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1995, making Jennette around the age of like 2 or 3 years old. But I do want to highlight that growing up in a strict religious environment definitely had an impact. While Jennette has gone on to speak about how the church was a safe escape for her growing up, and you'll see why later, her OCD tendencies, as she referred to them, and anxiety were amplified by some of the teachings, in particular the still small voice that she was told to listen for. So we've got a young child in a lower income household with OCD and anxiety, and who herself describes as cripplingly shy. Her mother is battling cancer for the first time. She's going to church and spending most of her time at home. It's a lot, right? Like, especially for a child. Like, I just, like, what's a girl to do, you know? Well, according to Deborah, her mother, a girl's gonna go on auditions at the ripe old age of 6 to start making that money, honey. Now, in Jennette's own words, my mom had always dreamt of being a famous actor, and she became obsessed with making me a star. I felt like my job was to keep the peace, and I wanted to keep my mom happy.
This right here is what I was talking about at the beginning with my little preamble to this about child stars. This. Her mom had always dreamt of being a famous actor, and then uses her daughter to essentially live through her this life that she wishes she had. She's forcing her own dreams on her child to live vicariously through her, right? So this seems to be a common theme for parents, that they want to have something like that, and then they get their children to do the same. And I'm pretty sure there's some level of this just normally amongst parents and children, where the things that you think you would have loved as a child, that you wanted to pursue and become, that you just never did. Maybe you wanted to be a world touring musician or a world-class athlete, and you just didn't make it, or you never rose to that level. I think a lot of parents kind of push that on their kids. Maybe your parents ended up being like blue-collar, working-class people, and they felt like, hey, no, I want you to be a doctor because that would be a better life. I see that as a better life, and I think you should be a doctor. And they kind of pushed you down that road of science and becoming a doctor. But it wasn't really your dream, right? Like, I think this happens outside of just the child star issue, and that this is common, but that in this case, because of the fact that the parents never had it, and they're often in these poor working class, lower class kind of living conditions where they're getting by, they're more susceptible to being tempted to turn a blind eye and allow terrible things to happen to their children so that they can get to a better spot in just financial society and culture. It's really strange. It's something that a lot of people don't agree with, and they'll say that they would never. But this is something about human nature we seem to be susceptible to, subjecting children to doing things so that they can have the life that we perceive as being best for them. And we will turn a blind eye to it in some circumstances. It's not everybody that does, like I said earlier. It just seems like this is what happens. Parents will turn a blind eye. Like, even in the case of it just being that you pursue science, become a doctor or an astronaut or whatever, right? The thing is, if that's what they wanted you to do, and that's kind of where they directed you and focused your attentions, maybe you really enjoy it, right? And nothing wrong with it. Maybe you do enjoy it. Maybe you like that. Maybe it really aided you in finding something you enjoy with your life. I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. I know that it always comes with terrible strings attached to it. It's just that in this instance, with child stars, it almost always does, as we outlined earlier. And that's why it's a problem when it's this industry. Unless you're a parent who is going to basically helicopter parent your kids to make sure that they are safe and protected within that industry. And you have to be there every step of the way to be like, nope, you're not doing that with my kid. Nope, my daughter's not doing that. My son's not doing that. You're not using my son. What did you just say you're going to do with my kid? What, excuse me? No, you're not. Unless you're going to be that parent, this seems to be the outcome with that industry. Whereas other walks of life that you get pushed into like this just because your parents want the best for you, and this seems to be the way they do it. It's not always something that leads to you being exploited for and maybe coming out of it with terrible trauma and addiction that leaves you coping with things incorrectly. But it does here. It definitely does here.
And you know, like, every time I hear about someone who felt like their job as a child was to make their parents happy, like, it just kind of like guts me, you know? So fast forward 2 years later, and little Miss Jennette had booked her first role on Mad TV, launching an acting career that would span the next 14 years of her life. 14 years of a job she did not want to do. Like, y'all, I can't. Wild. I'm okay. I've got to rein it in. We haven't even made it through the background yet, and I'm already. I know what's coming, and I get heated. Okay. From Mad TV, Jennette went on to have roles in Law & Order, Malcolm in the Middle, and tons of other television shows before reaching the creme de la creme of entertainment in the early 2000s.
I've never been a Mad TV person.
From here, her life would change forever.
Why? Why proud of yourself?
I think I've chosen a path of integrity, and it hasn't always been easy.
Now, I'm going to start off this section with a little blast from the past, so let me know if you recognize it. Are you ready?
Brand new Nick show, iCarly. This is Carly Shay. She has an off-the-wall best friend.
Here's an idea. What? Stop doing bad things!
And a red-hot web show.
This is our very first webcast of a little show we call iCarly. In fact, next week, Carly's going to take my tonsils out right here. She's lying. But how awesome would that be?
That little blonde girl, yeah, that's Jennette McCurdy, and she had just landed the role of Sam Puckett on Nickelodeon's new tween sitcom, iCarly. Now, for those of you who weren't sentient for the tween-age dream of Nickelodeon sitcoms, let me give you a bit of a primer.
See, I was the right age to like this shit, but I didn't like it. Right? When I was this age, I preferred, like, Boy Meets World. Right? So I was literally watching the competing shows.
iCarly was...
It's just strange how that happens.
I don't know. It was an American teen sitcom created by Dan Schneider that originally aired on Nickelodeon from September 8, 2007 to November 23rd, 2012. Now,
Okay, well that kind of explains it, because by that time it was like, I was well past these shows. I thought it was like earlier 2000s that started. I thought it was like 2003 or 4 that this show came out. No, I'm very wrong. Very incorrect.
According to Nickelodeon itself, Carly Shay led a pretty normal life in Seattle until she and her friends started their own web show. When iCarly becomes an instant hit, Carly and her pals have to balance their newfound success with the problems of everyday life, like fitting in high school, dealing with crushes, and deciding which flavor to get at the groovy smoothie. With her parents overseas, Carly relies on the help of her best friend and co-star Sam Puckett, her longtime pal, technical producer Freddie Benson, and her eccentric older brother, guardian, Spencer, to keep it all together. Sam and Freddie's constant bickering and Spencer's odd habits make for a lot of good material. So, starring Miranda Cosgrove as Carly Shay, who we'll talk about more a little bit later, and Jennette McCurdy as Sam Puckett, iCarly had everything Nickelodeon needed to be a success, right? Seriously, iCarly went on to be one of Nickelodeon's most popular shows, with one episode called I Saved Your Life still holding the silver medal for being the second most viewed telecast in Nickelodeon history.
See, like I said, when I was this age, like the target age for this show's audience, I was watching Boy Meets World. And this is basically Boy Meets World, except for instead of the world being the medium, it's this podcast thing that they're doing, right? The iCarly, little thing that they're making. That's the world for their show. It makes sense that this would be a recipe for success, because if you have the right medium, this story relates to this age group every time. For every generation of this age group, this story arc works marvelously. It's just, you see it come back time and time again in different forms, and there's always more than one show that fits this at the same time as well. Because this is the Nickelodeon. There was also a show that was like this that was on Disney, and there was one like this on NBC or whatever. Every station is going to have something like this, basically. Basically, every production would. They probably don't now because of streaming and the way that works. But back in the days of cable television, this is how it was. Every station, so every major production, had a a show that was like this for this target audience.
11.2 million
it always
views
worked. It's a
on the
recipe for
day
success.
that it aired. Logan Paul wishes. Okay, so from the
Logan Paul
outside,
wishes.
Jennette's
Jesus
life as a
Christ.
young star was what every tween dreamed of, right? Like, but in reality, it wasn't all sunshine, fried chicken, and Kids' Choice Awards. Like, something much darker was happening under the surface, and that's what we're gonna get into.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
time to join the darkness.
All y'all.
You say quite frankly that
Let's
this was
dive
never your
into
dream.
the
Stardom was never
darkness.
your dream. Whose dream was it?
It's
My
time
mom's.
to get in there.
Okay, so let's
Under
rewind it a little
pressure.
bit. The year is 2003, and Jennette has been consistently working in the entertainment industry for 3 years to please her mother.
You say quite frankly that this was never your dream. Stardom was never your dream. Whose dream was it?
My mom's. I think she
See, it's
wanted
so
me to have a
common.
better life than
It's
she had.
strange.
But I also think her approach was very unhealthy and informed by her own lack of self-worth. And
Probably.
she lived vicariously through me.
Under the guise of making Jennette more bookable for younger roles, Deborah told her that she could teach her daughter to count calories to maintain a slim, childlike frame. For Jennette, who's a child, it just sounded like an opportunity for her and her mom to be closer. Now, according to Pop Crush, at the time, McCurdy was consuming just 1,000 calories a day, and some days she would eat even less to impress her mother. By the time she was officially cast on iCarly as the food-loving character of Sam Puckett, she was deep into her battle with anorexia. And I just want to point something out here. In Jennette's interview with People, she said that my mom said she could teach me calorie counting and we could be a team, but that I had to keep it a secret. I thought it was an opportunity for my mom and me to be closer. So Jennette was only 11 years old when this started with her mother. 11. Your mom turns around and tells you, it'll be our little secret.
God.
Like, that's the kind of shit that a child predator says. And beyond that, the fact that...
She's right. That is the type of person who makes that kind of statement. And the fact of the matter is, Dan Schneider was running a show. So there is that aspect as well. Not good. Very not good. It sucks that this is the reality that people have to deal with, in all honesty. It's also very difficult to imagine being somebody who's like anorexic, right? So you're not eating and you don't think that you should be eating, and when you look like you eat food, just a healthy amount of food, you feel like there's something wrong with you because now you look terrible to yourself. And you're playing the role of a character that loves eating and food. How do you portray a character accurately that is antithetical to the way you are currently living your life in such a way? Because of the mental side of anorexia. Not just the physical side of it, but the mental side of it. And then you've got to put that aside and be this food-loving character in this show. And you're only 11 doing this, by the way. That is ridiculous to even just comprehend trying to do as an adult, let alone an 11-year-old. Let alone an 11-year-old who's doing this thing, like acting and doesn't even really want to be there. Like, what the hell? That's insanity. Just trying to comprehend this situation and to put yourself in her shoes so that you can comprehend it mentally is already a what the fuck kind of moment.
That Jennette's mom, Deborah, was forcing her daughter to keep it a secret just underscores that Deborah knew this was wrong. She knew that this was dangerous for her child, but she did it anyways to feed her greed. This is abuse, plain and simple, and we will dig into it more in a minute. Now, just to give a little insight into disordered eating, which I'll refer to as ED or EDs, for those who might not know, anorexia nervosa, or simply anorexia, is defined by the National Institute of Mental Health as a condition where people avoid food, severely restrict food, or eat very small quantities of only certain foods. They also may weigh themselves repeatedly. Even when dangerously underweight, they may see themselves as overweight. While this isn't the only case of parental abuse that we will be discussing in this doc, it is one of the main examples discussed in Jennette's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. So, like, are y'all starting to get an idea why Jennette titled her book that? I mean, it just... I get it. But back to it. So Jennette explains how her ED was exacerbated as a result of being young in Hollywood, saying that my disordered eating was reinforced wherever I went and by whomever I saw. I'd lose weight and go to a wardrobe fitting where the stylist would look at me excitedly, wag a pair of 00 jeans, and happily sing song down a size while she was a literal child. Like, I just did anyone care? It's just so fucked up.
Yeah, well, it's this very kind of unspoken
That's actually just terrible
rule, I feel like, in young Hollywood of, you know, if you're at a Teen Vogue party and they're passing around hors d'oeuvres and you're in the middle of a conversation and you go to grab an hors d'oeuvre.
If you're a kid and you're at a Teen Vogue party, you should be asking a lot of fucking questions of your parents. Your parents have a lot of questions that they should be having to answer you for asking. Because Teen Vogue, in my opinion, does its very best to get kids to sexualize themselves in some ways. It's very strange because it does the same type of thing that magazines and images and imagery of things like fashion models and celebrities and actors and singers, songwriters, etc. What all this does with adults is it creates a body dysmorphia image where you never think you're good enough and you're looking at these images that are doctored up. And in that body dysmorphia also comes the fact that these publications do some things that sexualize people over time, making those things that were once forbidden standard and accepted. If you look at it, women used to wear like long dresses, right? You'd be wearing something that covered all the way down to your ankles and you'd be wearing long socks. Over time, it's become basically your underwear, right? For the same types of magazines. So, like dresses that you can see through things now in the same types of magazines. So over time, they've done this same shift. And the thing is, these publications doing this to adults are the same publications that make the ones for children. Why would they be doing anything different with the children that if it works with the adults? Because that just means that you're creating the people who are going to purchase your products in the future when they're younger. You're just making it a standard, normal thing that they transition from one to the other and they continue purchasing your products. They don't have any kind of issue with your product. They don't have any kind of issue with the way that you treat people. They don't have any kind of issue with the way that you portray the way people look. They don't care because they're still buying your products. And that's the way they interpret it.
It's like you'll get the side eye from another person, like, oh my, you're taking a Crostini? Like, this is insane.
Oh, wow.
So then it's like, oh God, okay, I gotta set that down. Like, it's just this you can just feel the pressure of it. You can feel everybody kind of body monitoring, food monitoring everybody else in the room. It's just such a part of the business, I think.
See, when she was involved with like Teen Vogue get-togethers, it was everybody is there socially shaming you into having a disorder, just not eating at all. That way you fit into what they have normalized through the way they portray the models in Teen Vogue to look more thin than normal. Even the models themselves are getting photoshopped and edited. They're getting cropped and changed. It's not even them anymore by the time that it's in there. The magazine's published. You can recognize them, but they've done so much to them through just doctoring up the photos to make them look more appealing that it's fake body, basically. You know what I'm saying? It's not good. And if you're at these events, you should be asking your parents a lot of questions, because that's what's going on there. It's exacerbating every one of the issues that I've already pointed out.
Wow. Y'all, when I tell you that every time I hear Jennette talk about this, I have this overwhelming urge to want to punch every adult involved straight in the balls. Virtually, with peace and love, of course. Now, while Jennette was good at hiding her ED, a skill that no one should ever have to develop, the pressure from her mother continued to increase. Even as she continued to book roles and continued to pay the bills, as a small child, it just wasn't enough. Deborah didn't want Jennette to think for herself, and by emaciating her daughter, it was an additional way to maintain control.
In many ways, your mother tried to keep you a child.
Yeah, I think my mom wanted to keep me as controllable as possible. I think she really wanted to have her influence on me, and me growing up was a threat to that.
The key to that was calorie restriction.
Absolutely. I think my mom encouraged and conditioned my anorexia because both she thought that it would in some ways help my career, and also because it served her goal of keeping me young and under her influence.
So not only would having your child being anorexic make your child more under your control, the way that she put it there, right? How'd she say it?
It served her goal of keeping me young and under her influence.
So keeping you under someone's influence, right? This is what people say is their concern with, shit, I just lost her name. What's funny is it's the videos everybody comes to my YouTube for. I can't believe I just can't think of this name. There's no way. Damn. We're just going to pull up the same videos over here time and time again, I guess, for this one. It's not actually even going to recommend us anything. Weird. Oh well, whatever. But it's the thing is, everybody assumes this of other people as well. When you're dealing with this issue and your parents are around, they all, like, I think that the parent is doing this and they're aiding and that they're making this issue what it is, etc. and so on. And the problem with it is that they probably are, right? Especially, like I've said so many times in the past, if there is money to be earned that will financially lower the burden on the parent, this seems to be very common to happen. And with this specific disorder, the issue is that not only are you more under their influence, but you're at such a calorie deficit that you're physically dependent upon other people to be able to do normal things. You don't have the energy to take care of a home or an apartment on your own, right? Like you don't have the energy with that calorie deficiency to take care of your home, work a job, and still do everything else you need to be doing. You've got to make meals, which, I mean, at that deficit, you're not really eating much, so that's not a big deal. But you still need to do things like cleaning, taking showers, maintaining your space. The everyday maintenance of maintaining your space is just that on top of work, right? Having to move things around regularly. You're restricting things so much that your body becomes emaciated and it's devouring itself. And what happens is you are physically dependent on other people and you are playing a game of chicken with death And it makes you entirely dependent on somebody who, if they are benefiting from that situation because this person's an actor, a model, in some way, shape, or form famous and has a following in today's world, and not to be able to generate money through their image that way, then people are going to take advantage of it. Friends, family. It's human nature. Sadly enough, that's the issue, is that it's just simply human nature. They're going to take advantage of it, and these people are very vulnerable to it, and they have to pull themselves out of it, because the only way to get out of any kind of situation like this is to truly not want to be there anymore, because you can be offered all the help in the world, and it will do you no good. You're stuck in an abusive relationship to some extent with yourself, because, like I've said numerous times, the mental side of this issue it's a big portion of the issue. And the thing is, to some extent, you're battling yourself, as well as the people around you who are enabling you doing this and not trying to get you help, not trying to get you to see that you need help. And the fact is that you have to want that help, and you have to want that change to accept that help, is a better way of putting it. Because until you want that change, you have and will continue to scorn the help that is offered to you by people who care for you, because you don't believe that they're trying to help you at that point in time. So anything they do is only going to make the situation worse. You have to pull yourself out of the situation by truly wanting to get out of it, hearing what they're saying, accepting it, and taking the help that they offer to get better. But sadly, with any situation that's like this, nobody can do anything to help you. All that anybody can do is watch and hope for the best.
I'd starve myself for so long, and then I'd binge, and then I'd purge, because I hated the feeling of fullness. Hated it.
I want to break down what is happening to a child's brain when they are this young, so that we can really understand the impact that these ED patterns had on Jennette at the hands of her mother. Children are just starting to realize that the choices they make now might have long-term effects, so they're less prone to only living in the moment, you know? Like, they might not be as extended future thinking as an adult is, but the brain is starting to grasp that life is more than just right this second. According to Dr. Martin Burton, a board-certified developmental behavioral pediatrician and associate professor at New York Media College, social emotional development at this age is a transition towards adolescence, which means an increased focus on their social world and on who they are as individuals. The child is torn between family rules and peer pressure and the desire to be obedient or to be cool and challenge authority. There are actually several developmental checklists that most children go through as they're growing up, like developing self-regulation skills, understanding thoughts are private, developing better decision-making skills, and exploring identity and expression. And I want you to note something on the physical milestones checklist. At the bottom it says increased need to both sleep and eat more. Now, 11 years old is also the start of puberty for many children, meaning that there can be chest development,
especially
increased
girls.
Body fat, widening of hips, their first period, which holy shitballs, y'all. Like, I don't think I got mine until I was like 16 or 17. Like, I can't even imagine having these cramps at age 11. Like, whoo, child, the devil is a lie.
Do you know the poem, The Road Less Traveled by Shakespeare? I actually have the tattoo of it.
Don't ask me where.
You devil.
Guilty.
Sorry, okay.
Jesus.
So by monitoring Jennette's food intake and encouraging her spiral into EDs, Deborah was essentially trying to cancel out the effects of puberty, all for a couple of extra years passing as a child on television. Like, dude, I'm telling you, okay, square up, asshats, okay, balls about to be punched. Okay, back to it. So, playing a food-centric character like Sam on iCarly made it even more difficult for Jennette to keep her illness a secret. Between panicking about the food she was being told to eat on camera, trying to please her mother, and attempting to make everyone on set laugh continuously, Jennette was quickly spiraling downward. And when she turned 18, Deborah was diagnosed with cancer for a second time, and Jennette's ED morphed into binge eating, which I will call BE, and later
that makes sense.
Which I will refer to as BU. I hate having to censor so many words. Like, I feel like it somehow might reduce the severity and seriousness of these issues, but the platform just kind of leaves us little to no choice. So here we are. Okay.
God damn it, that's actually just frustrating. And we're gonna go back so that we can start this back up like right here tomorrow. I think that's a good spot to stop it for today, because this right here is exactly what I was saying. She found it incredibly difficult to eat the foods that she was supposed to eat on set while maintaining the secrecy of the disorder that she was being forced into having. And it's a conflicting thing, so I can't imagine trying or like being put in that position at that age. That it's so ridiculously difficult to like just think about being in that kind of a position, because you're trying to make everybody happy, but you have to keep this one thing a secret, and this right here is repulsive to you in reality. Eating this thing is a whole thought process of even just taking a bite of this is to you repulsive, but you need to eat this thing for your role in this. It's like, you see what I'm saying? There's so much there that is just a pain in the ass to even think about making it through. I don't know if doing this to your child would actually do what she'd said here, where she's doing this to try to put off puberty developing in her child. Like, it might do that. I don't know that it would actually do that, or if it would just lessen the results, right? Like, if you have less nutrients coming into your body, less nourishment coming into your body, and you're going through this phase of puberty, is your body going to develop the same way it would if you had more nutrients, if you're dealing with this disorder? You know what I mean? That seems to be very much so of a strong possibility. Just logically in my mind, it just makes sense. It just makes sense in my head for that to be the way that is. But yeah, I guess we won't be picking this one up tomorrow. We'll be picking it up on Saturday, because we've got tomorrow's Friday. I gotta find a flat earther video. Get the conspiracy guys.